what is the really interesting part about it is that when you look at all the data, there isn't enough food. It's really like the systems that we created aren't transporting and utilizing that food in equitable ways. We need to start looking at how we're doing stuff and why we're doing it.
Get involved in your community. It starts there. Like Feed Scarper is a good example. It's very like community based. You see a need, how can you like react and support? Because it really is encompassing about like who in your community doesn't have their basic needs, and then how can we actually capture that?
Welcome to our podcast, the Zero Hunger Project. And today we are at the United Nations headquarters building in New York. And I have a very interesting guest with me. I just met her this week, and we are both official Canadian delegates at the UN for the High Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development Goals. Do you want to introduce yourself and the organization you come from?
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to chat today. My name is Cory Witter, and I'm the executive director of Youth Life Lab, which is a youth-led serving nonprofit in Canada. We pretty much just do a bunch of like programs, like big materials for youth to like co-create climate justice issues together. I've been around for 8 years now, which is
How many members do you have?
well, we work more of like, like our staff and our board, not like a membership model, but through our programs, we've engaged over like 35 directly as like thousands more. So it's like resources.
And so coast to coast, I'm assuming?
From coast to coast, yeah, we have staff from like BC to Nova Scotia. And we do a mix of like in-person and programs across the country.
That's fascinating because we have realized through Zero Hunger projects that one thing is for sure, that unless and until we have the youth engaged, we are not going to go that far, especially when it comes to sustainable development goals. What are your thoughts on that? What's your connection with the SDGs?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really the most important part is to have the youth, and why I really love working for like a youth organization is that there are things more like innovative and like passionate ideas that come out with that ability to do like so much work with what is often very limited resources or very limited time, university or other stuff people have going on. We do a lot of SDG focused work, so we do incorporate the SDGs in all of our programs and try to talk about it and educate. We have some programs that are like specifically focused on the SDGs, like our grad cohort program, which is research activated. So like groups of youth across the country do like an 8-month learning journey on the SDGs, do great creation projects, we can type for grads out. And the amount of projects that have come out of there is so interesting and diverse. From like stuff that's like community gardens, like these like weed STEM, hitting every SDG and like what is happening to them as community partners and mentors in their area of adventure too.
Wow, that's fascinating. But I got to ask you this because this is something that is close to my heart, and I know all 17 SDGs are close to my heart. But our primary discussion is about zero hunger. Now, I know environment and hunger and food insecurity is very closely intertwined.
Yeah.
But do you have any ability or do you have any avenue for the youth to have conversations specifically on food insecurity?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely comes up. I would say we haven't done a program that's hyper focused in on hunger. So we definitely build a lot of our programming and like focusing on like what the youth are interested in, what they want to be working in. But then have big conversations like sustainable food deserts, sustainable food systems, depends on that. And we are hoping to do some more like specific content focused programs launching end of this year, early next year, which are a response to a lot of the youth movement saying that they have this like big desire in food systems, in like seeing how that works in Canada in that like international scope of food systems. And it really does seem to be a trend of that like increased interest in like food specifically. So we are shifting some of like systems like that. We'll see what comes out.
Awesome. That's amazing. Now, fortunately, you're a youth yourself.
Yeah.
And fortunately, if today I bring you and say, you know what, here is the Secretary General of the United Nations, and here's the Prime Minister of Canada. You have 2 minutes to give a pitch on how you personally think we can eliminate hunger from this world. What would you tell them?
I mean, I think what is the really interesting part about it is that when you look at all the data there isn't enough food. It's really like the systems that we created aren't transporting and utilizing that food in equitable ways. And it's really, we need to start looking at how we're doing stuff. And I think the government can play a big role in that. Like Canada has so many resources from that because we be working like smarter, not harder, and doing like higher yield stuff. I'm also like, you know, the whole vegetarian feel like being able to have good food. And I would definitely talk a little bit about one of the areas that like I find personally really fascinating around food is the like nutritional content of food and how that's degrading and how we can put in policies in place to kind of stop that from happening and how that is increasing health issues amongst Canadians. Like another member of our delegation works for an organization that works on getting like iron supplementation.
Yes.
And when it's so fascinating. And like when I was a teenager and I didn't have a very good education on food or what nutrition was, I would get home from school and I would sleep until the next day. I would sleep like 16, 17 hours a day because I was that deficient in different nutrients because that knowledge was. So we really just find that like education piece and setting it in the minds of people like at that school age and build up because not everyone has that at home.
No, that's really interesting. So if I'm hearing it correctly, start with education.
Yes. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Something for us to consider, especially when we are working on our programs. We are talking to various elected officials or people of power. Have this conversation and start with education and then see. Now, my last question to you is the youth always has a leg up when it comes to technology.
Yeah.
Now, are you focusing on technology when you're talking about and what kind of like technology are you guys focusing on?
Yeah, I definitely think for a lot of our programs, we're looking at like how we make harness stuff like social media and online platforms. A lot of our like remote work that we do, we kind of try to integrate like how can we use these like collaborative online workspaces or like online educational platforms or like e-learning so that we can reach youth across the country through like one fell swoop or that might not necessarily like have access to programs or knowledge or activism because they live in certain communities. One of the major Canadian cities, which has a lot of saturation programs now. So we try to use a lot of our technology and like having that outreach, having that like civic programming, and as a way to like with youth to be able to further their message. A lot of our programs are coming up also and having that like comms training, like digital misinformation, like how you get that information, you to package it so that has an impact for youth that want to do that impact for advocacy. So that's something all of our programs now incorporating more and more as
Wow. This is fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. And we are going to put the website link of Cory's organization. So any youth who's watching this, and if you're in Canada, please follow them, join them, and let's together have a better world. Thank you again for your time. Really appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Take care. And as I mentioned earlier today, that this is a very different setup than we've had before. And I'm at the United Nations building in New York as an official Canadian delegate to the high-level political forum and the Sustainable Development Goals. And now with me, I have one of my favorite people here at this whole building. That's Isabelle.
Really?
Yes. So tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do.
Sure. My name is Isabelle LeVert-Chiasson. I work for the federal government, in Social Development Canada, as part of the SDG unit, so the Sustainable Development Goals unit. And we help coordinate Canada's response and progress to the Sustainable Development Goals. And I'm actually part of the engagement team, which is very exciting because I also get to work with external partners. So that we're not only coordinating internally with all the departments, but also getting civil society input, stories, and quantitative and qualitative data as we're trying to measure what we're doing well, and then where we also to measure performance.
Said it so well. And now I'm going to get more questions on that and find out a little more. So tell me, this is a two-part question. The first part is, why are SDGs important for you, Isabel?
Yeah.
And why are SDGs important to Canada?
Yeah. Well, before I even jumped on this team, I actually knew about the SDGs, so I know it's not necessarily public knowledge. But previously, I was working with the Canadian Commission on the Education Program, so I've always had a passion for the UN. But before that, my path took me towards doing community development, international development, and I really like the interconnectedness. Taking action locally, but also knowing that we're all connected on this beautiful planet, right? And the great thing that I love about the SDGs, aside from them being so colorful and beautiful, is they're they are accessible. So I used to have coordinators and experts from the network to hear what, and I love that because I see the need for senior community in schools all across Canada, all around the world. I've seen posters and it depends whether like it's teacher led, school led, it doesn't really matter. But it's just encouraging and giving kids some sense how they can take local action in business, right?
Absolutely.
And it's like whether it's a community garden or reduction in trash or whatnot. So I had the pleasure to just go visit schools sometimes. I even went, my kids started school for kindergarten, JK kindergarten to 5-year-olds, 4 and 5-year-olds.
4 and 5-year-olds.
5-year-olds and get them to know what the sustainable development goals are. So that was exciting. So if you can explain it to that level, then I think
Then you want it.
Yeah, I get it.
Isabel, I wish there was a lot more of that. It is very small, like school level.
Yeah.
I just wish the school boards across our country and across the world would embrace the SDGs and make it a part of everybody. Like you as a parent would go and do it, or like a community member would go and do it.
Yeah.
But where are we going wrong? Because for the school boards, not all school boards have a program on SDGs.
Yeah.
I know we talked to New Brunswick has some, I think.
Yeah, they've started incorporating New Brunswick in the curriculum. Manitoba has been doing a lot of work actually on education, sustainable development. It's just different levels. BC started to incorporate. So I think that's one of the beauty of Canada, the diversity. And I mean, we can not just see a challenge, right? So it's hard to have in Canadian or national frameworks because of the different levels of government, different communities and whatnot, and come to the table. So, but I do think there's a role for every level of government and and every different pockets of communities, right? Like the great thing about the SDGs, and I tell this to like 4 or 5-year-olds, but they're building consensus. So it took a few years, but I tell that to the classroom. Like imagine all of you trying to create what we should all be for this issue, right?
Yep.
And everybody has to agree. And if one person disagrees, like it's not consensus.
Probably we can't agree here.
Right? So imagine all the countries around the world having a great, so it's aspirational for sure, but I think it's still something we need to strive for. And it's complex, because you're right. Because it's like some schools are ahead, some but everybody's at different levels. So how do you learn from each other's experiences and try to push it forward in the momentum?
So what you just said brought another question to my mind. In your role, in your job you're doing, must be very difficult to understand where all the province, all the municipalities, all the NGOs, they're all in different places, right? How do you bring all of them together in one spot?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, you can't step on each other's toes, right? So I think, like for me, in my role, we do the coordination within the family. So we consult with all the departments, and we have the departments that report every SDG, right? So my department, for example, the SDC is the lead for SDG 8 December. Because they will that initiatives. So that's our role, is to coordinate that. But this being said, there's no denying there has to be conversations with different levels of government, and then the engagement team try to do some society engagement. We do the SDG funding program. We try to organize the SDGs across Canada. So I think there's a lot of great intention. And still a lot of work. It's
not easy at all. It's not easy at all.
Yeah.
It's like you talked about SDGA.
Yeah.
if SDG 8 is done properly, that will help SDG 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So it's so interconnected. It's fascinating. The SDGs have certainly fascinated me for a long time. But also, what we were just talking about is going to in school, in kindergarten, and
Yeah.
explaining to them. And just want to give a plug. Our organization, Feed Scarborough, the local organization, we have a mascot, which is a raccoon. So we use that raccoon with all our SDG stuff to make it funny and make it so.
Interactive.
Yeah, and I'm sure with this, while this podcast is on the YouTube, the video version of it, we're going to put a couple of those images there for you to see. It's just that's how we get the kids to be excited about it.
Yes.
And whoever designed it wasn't me, but whoever designed this whole color palette did a fantastic job to make it attractive.
Yeah.
And now to kind of get to the meat and on the bones and to get a little bit details about it. So that's absolutely fascinating. So tell us a little bit what you're doing to advance the SDGs and what is the impact that you personally, but also your team is creating.
Yeah. Well, I think as a Canadian citizen, local citizen, I think that's why I'm retired, involved, and I think it just does start on a professional level with my SDG unit. I coordinate the reporting for Canada's SDGs. So we do international strategy. We publish an annual report for voluntary national review. To be really transparent, here Canada is taking stock of the 17 SDGs. We're doing lots of great work on policy coherence, so we're really trying to navigate and try to make sure that we're speaking language, getting data from different patterns the same way, reporting. Colleagues at Statistics Canada is doing a great job with actually capturing the data. And then I think what's really important is when you see the statistics, and we also need to kind of give a background story to why these are. Because SDGs, there's 69 indicators, I think, right? So that's a lot of data, and they tell stories. And sometimes if you don't put that context, you don't really understand why are we, Statistics Canada, they did this really great visual, like green, yellow, or orange, and red. So where are we
On that?
on that spectrum? And then why? And these are very valid questions, but they're also very complex questions. And I think that's what we need to reflect in a bigger picture is why are we're doing great on some ones, and then why are we not on others? And then how can we better advance? Yeah, it's
Just the end. So for the next couple of questions I have, take your Government of Canada hat off and be Isabelle. So just be Isabelle.
Yeah.
And so if a lot of our audience has no idea what they have no idea what we are talking about. My podcast keeps talking about SDGs. So they don't know how to really be involved. But they now may understand what SDGs are all about, but they don't know how to get involved. So if I'm asking you as a citizen of Canada to understand SDG, and if you have to give some pointers to our audience and say, hey, if you want to get involved, you have a couple of ways. What are those couple of things that you might want to tell them?
Yeah, smart. Get involved in your community. It starts there. Feed Scarborough is a good example. It's very community based. You see a need, how can you react and support? I like the tagline "Leave no one behind" because it really is encompassing about who in your community doesn't have their basic needs, and then how can we actually capture that? And it just I think you can do it through following your passion. So whether it is at a local food bank, or it is at a youth, or even with the soccer and recreational, all of these are for your health, right? And increasing your well-being. So if it's something that is good for you, good for your family, good for your neighbors, it's basically good for the planet. So I think if you think about it, and we were talking about that too, how the SDGs is essentially the communication tool.
That's it.
It's basically the whole planet as it is, but however you want to frame it, it's a very positive impact in your community.
That's such a great comment you just made. Because SDG might sound it's a United Nations thing, but it's not.
Yeah.
It is actually a community thing that everyone can make that little impact to change the world for a better place. So thank you for that. That means a lot. Now, my last question to you, and this will be again to Isabel, not to the government of Canada, of course, at all. So our podcast primarily talks about zero.
Yeah.
We want to eliminate hunger from this world. Our hope is 2030. We don't know. We'll see where we end up. But today, if we have the Secretary General of the US Nations and the Prime Minister of Canada sitting in front of you, and you have 2 minutes to give an elevator pitch as a common citizen, what would you say that might help make a difference to attain zero hunger by 2030? Would that be? Stuff.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
It's a complex issues.
It
I'm
is.
still gonna start on the local level. Like I actually come from a small community. My family had a farm, a cow farm, and we always had a vegetable garden. My grandparents, and I always thought that was really inspiring. And I love to. I think it's super important to have access to local food. And I think we do have a global food system. We're not going to just like that's not going to be eliminated. But every community should still have access, and we should support farmers and have direct access and distribution. And that's like a big issue. And I know food wastage is also a big issue because right now that's how the global system of supermarkets or whatnot. So just like really, just fundamentally for every community to have access, ideally locally sourced food. I know that's complex, but maybe not. But at least if not, that we're aware of the food coming in, the food coming out, and then at least we're not wasting it, and then it's being properly distributed. Because there's no reason at this point in time when people are hungry, right? There isn't even in Canada, you can't like the food costs have gone up. We acknowledge that, but there's no reason.
You're so correct. And this is something that I would do in my elevator pitch if I was asked this question. Today,
You'll do it better.
I don't know about better, but I think one of the things that sticks to me is today in Canada, if our borders close,
Yeah.
we have only 3 days worth of food in our country. How ridiculous is that? So if my wish list, my immediate wish list is how can we extend that 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 6?
Yeah.
Because with this global political situation, never know what's coming. So we need to be more resilient, and local food is a way to go. How can we add infrastructure within our country, maybe through farmlands, maybe to preserving food, maybe with grain shelters, whatever that might be, or if it's a multiple of different things, is how can we increase our emergency food stock? So that will be my first and foremost. And you're correct. In 2025, we have 1/4 of our population who are food insecure. We can 10 million. Out of that 2.4 million are children. Absolutely makes no sense.
That is shocking.
Yeah. When almost 48% of our food goes to landfill. Something doesn't add up here, does it? So it's complex. It's easier for me to sit in this building and say that, okay, do something about it. It's not that easy, but I think it's still those small steps needs to happen because eventually we need to take care of this, otherwise it's going to be worse. And I told you that was my last question, but I lied. I would ask you one quick question. I don't know what you think of this answer. Is that where do you think we are in the 2030 agenda? Do you think where do you think Canada will end up in 2030? What is your instinct?
So we're sitting at the UN, and unfortunately, the message is similar to last year. We're not on track globally to meeting the sustainable development goals. And I think what's inspiring and frustrating about the situation is that the message gets repeated Um, but the track, the direction is not
Action.
yeah, it's not shifting fast enough to really make a difference. It's complex. There's a lot of conflicts. There's like so many other sturdy, circumstances that are impacting us. I'm sure. I don't
But-
honestly like it says. I don't know what the future holds,
Future.
and I want to be optimistic. And yeah,
I'm hopeful, but
and hopeful. Yeah.
talking about Canada, very recently, our Attorney General came up with a report on how we are doing.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Our Auditor General.
Auditor General Sustainable.
Yes. And those who haven't read it, I'm going to put a link in this so you can have a read. But if you had to summarize in 10 seconds or 20 seconds, what would you say? Came out of the report. You read it, right?
Yeah, but maybe
So we know the Auditor General came out with a report, and I'm going to put this report in the chat box down. So anybody who is really interested to know how Canada is doing, I think you should go on the link and check it out. It is something that I think we should all read. So, Isabel, with that, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate this, and we'll have a lot more conversations. We're going to bug you a lot more,
thank you.
and we will have more conversations coming up from the UN building.
Thank you.
Take care.